At least one U.S. citizen killed on the Malaysian flight that was shot down in eastern Ukraine. President Obama speaking on the escalating tension on the region just moments ago.
Time and again, Russia has refused to take the concrete steps necessary to de-escalate the situation. We have the capacity to increase the cost that we impose on them, and we will do so.
Let's bring in today's panel. Fox Business senior correspondent Charlie Gasparino. We have NewOak President James Frischling, Fox Business's very own Tracy Burns. What's your takeaway today? Tracy, what do you think?
I mean, I think the market is realizing that we're not going to take military action, that nothing has intrinsically changed. This was an accident, a bad accident, but an accident. So tensions that are going on overseas were there yesterday, were there 3 days ago, they'll be there a week from now. And I think that's what we're seeing in the market reaction today. What
do you think of the White House response?
Pretty lame. This follows basically what I said yesterday. Listen, we're not going to do military action. That's off the table. President Obama has been signaling that we're not going to do the very sort of tough stuff in terms of freezing Russian assets that would have an impact on their economy in a major way and would impact our economy, particularly our banking system if you froze all the Russian assets. If that's the case, you know, traders will trade off a negative headline, and they will, and it will come back the next day because it's not going to have a macro impact on our markets or our economy. That's what we're having now. And again, I'll say it again: if President Obama really wants to go after Russia for this, because this is Vladimir Putin's problem from day one. If it's an accident, he caused it. If it wasn't an accident, you know, his followers are doing it. You got to freeze Russian assets, but it's going to cause economic pain here.
Yeah, look, I've been growing more cautious on the markets, having nothing to do with these headlines.
Right.
For kind of very domestic reasons. You see the companies are actually laying off workers now, benign job growth, a whole lot of issues in housing, student loans. These headlines actually do bother me for this very reason. I think this is the kind of an activity that gets countries against Russia. This is the kind of thing where all of a sudden Germany might need to get involved. Does it strain China? And all of a sudden then does the U.S. take the actions that are going to actually be severe enough to impact Russia and actually then hurt the global economy? So I'm a little concerned here.
Does it portend a global slowdown coming? Even more so than we already have?
I think based on what we heard the president say, based on what Charlie was just saying, too, about what it will do to our banking system, I can't imagine we're going to flex any muscle. We haven't all along. What would make us start now? Unfortunately, we don't have a foreign policy out there.
Do we have the guts to watch the Dow Jones go down 3,000 points?
No, but what would cause that? I mean, you would have to get physically involved.
No, this is what would cause it. If you took not these baloney sort of things that he's doing around the edges. If you went out there and said, we are going to freeze through our banking system all Russian assets, which they could do, and I can tell you, all the banks see that as all the banks have plans if that would happen. That would come back and hurt us in a lot of ways because transactions get frozen, there would be losses. I mean, you know, we could talk about this all day, but I'm just saying that would have an impact on our banking system, which would take the market down. Do we have the guts to do that? Now, it would hurt Russia.
No, we don't have the guts to do that.
Of course.
Still, it's all the bullies around the world, it seems like, are getting more and more and more out of control.
Well, that's my point.
And we're being left out of all these conflicts.
Listen,
we can't impact them when we want to.
It's my point. This president, now some presidents might have that. I think Ronald Reagan would have had that type of guts against Vladimir Putin. I don't know if George Bush would, although he did get involved in a war with scant evidence that we should have been involved in it. But you know, this president is signaled that he is not going to get involved in a major way here.
That's how the market's reacting, because the market's reacting. History knows exactly how this president will react to this kind of stuff. He'll say something and go back to his Democratic fundraisers.
No, I'll agree on that. That's how the market's reacting, and they believe the Fed is now going to stand even further pat in light of all these headlines.
Right. So again, it's good for the market. So what happened in a perverse way as you watch the Dow go higher today? What happened is good for the market?
It's somewhat irrational, but yes, that is correct. But yes.
But it's not even that. It's my point, and my point yesterday was this again. Worry about the stuff that you were talking about. Worry about corporate earnings. Worry about Fed policy. I don't think just yet, unless they freeze assets and do something very radical on an economic sanctions standpoint, this is not going to affect the average investor.
We're going to leave it right there. This is just in. FedEx feeling the heat. A federal grand jury indicting the shipping company for allegedly delivering prescription drugs for illegal online pharmacies. FedEx, of course, denying the claims. But could it have ignored the warning signs years ago? The panel is back with me now. This is very interesting. So this is this case where it has people going online. You're just filling out questionnaires rather than seeing a doctor and getting drugs shipped to you. They are saying that FedEx knew it was delivering illegal drugs. FedEx, which I think is pretty compelling, says they repeatedly requested the government provide a list of online pharmacies engaging in this illegal activity, and that they were willing to stop shipping for those companies immediately.
I can't imagine that. Listen, I beat up on corporations all the time, but generally corporations don't knowingly, as a corporate policy, unless it's Enron, there are exceptions, Enron, WorldCom, that knowingly commit fraud, that FedEx, it would, by the way, they'll
onlinedrugs.com.
If that's true.
I mean, these are the names of these kind of companies. On the other hand, if that's true, if they did ask, who are you talking about? We will stop shipping to them. But it's the investigation's been going on for years. It is now coming to a head. Tracy, what do you think?
I mean, you could still get fen-phen online if you wanted to. I'm not sure that's FedEx's fault. Should FedEx be going through every single one of my packages? They might find fen-phen. I mean, like, right, you don't want that. You don't want them to get to that point. That's too intrusive.
Yeah, they're not supposed to be enforcing the law. Okay, meanwhile, U.S. drug maker AbbVie shrugging off Treasury Secretary Jack Lew's calls for economic patriotism instead of moving ahead on its deal to buy Dublin-based Shire to avoid the hefty 35% corporate tax rate here at home. What do you think about this one? You're someone who thinks moving in order to save your tax bill is not unpatriotic.
Yeah.
In fact, it's American.
I don't want to be a hypocrite here. I mean, I'm a native New Yorker, and yet when my company expanded, we actually went to Connecticut as a result of the economic terms that they offered us. So does that make me anti-New York? It really doesn't. But business is hard enough. It's competitive enough. You're going to have to either deal with the tax code, and you're going to have to play on where's the best way to be competitive in your markets.
Right. Money goes where money's treated.
But whether it's patriotism or not, I mean, what Jack Lew listen, it's surprising because he worked on Wall Street. He's the Treasury Secretary. He doesn't understand the notion of fiduciary responsibility. You brought this up yesterday. You have to go to the lowest, where you get the lowest cost of capital. That's the law.
One could argue
that's
corporate
law. Do the best
One
by
could
your
argue
shareholders.
the tax code is unpatriotic right now because it's completely slanted and it is a book of political favors.
How about, I mean, changing the law retroactively to go back and grab money from people? I mean, that's over the top.
It is. That is beyond
amazing. All right, the Garden State could be opening its gates to illegal immigrants. Speaking in political hotbed Iowa, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie says he won't be opposed to taking in children on a case-by-case basis. I mean, this was really interesting. He said, I have great empathy for the situation. Frankly, administration has done an awful job of securing our border. They need to do that. But then he went on to say, you know, that the state would take in where other governors have said, absolutely not. We're not.
Well, Rick Perry,
folks.
who's not exactly a liberal, came out and said some of the same stuff during the last presidential campaign. He got a lot of guff from it, from Mitt Romney. But I will say this. It sounds like Christie, just from and I've been doing a lot of writing about him in and whether he's going to run or not and what people think of him, given all the scandals. It seems like he's really sort of positioning himself as the sort of liberal, moderate liberal to run for president, that he understands he's lost the conservative base. Ain't going to go to him. The only way he wins over the press, who's been very attacking him on all these scandals in Jersey, like Bridgegate, where one of his aides closed down the lane, is to attack this very left, this sort of moderate liberal stance, particularly on social issues.
Yeah, this is really wanting to have it both ways, because you say we've got to, you know, build a fence at the border, secure our border, that kind of tough talk. And then his comments really fly in the face of other governors who have turned down requests for immigrants to come to their states. Tracy, what do you think?
This is a tough one for Jersey residents, too, because there's a lot of people in Jersey.
That's right, you Jerseyan. What do you think of this?
I mean, you know, I want the money to go to my kids first, because I pay a buttload of state taxes. So I don't know.
That's a technical term.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we all are going to struggle with that.
Yeah. Last word, James.
I thought he just straddled the fence. He didn't actually commit to doing anything.
Yeah,
he would evaluate it on a case-by-case basis on its merits.
But isn't it a political statement in a sense?
No, I think it's a political statement.
Right?
I mean, he's wanting to position himself. Thanks to all of you.